guys, it's Quinn here. If you appreciate my content, consider hitting the like button. It's the only way the YouTube algorithm notices me. If you'd like to do more to keep this channel afloat, consider donating through the PayPal link in the description or checking out our Patreon. Thanks guys so much. Le Shichin's Remembrance of Earth's Past trilogy is one of the most compelling modern sci-fi series in my opinion. If you like science fiction that really zooms out and drives its speculative ideas out literally to the end of time, then this is probably the series for you. Now, I of course have several videos covering several aspects of this series, but in this video we will get to a topic that has been requested for a very long time, and that is the Wallfacers and the Wallbreakers. Now, obviously, if you have not read the series, this video is going to be full of spoilers, although most of it would probably go over your head anyway. But if you have read the books, or at least seen my previous videos, or you just don't care about spoilers, then feel free to continue forward. Part 1. The Wallfacer Project. The series, of course, follows humanity as we deal with the knowledge that a powerful race of alien beings has set its sights on Earth and will arrive within 400 years. These beings, called the Trisolarans, are from a star system approximately 4 light years away. They inhabit a planet within an unstable 3-star system, but they desire Earth. They launch a kind of probe at Earth called a Sophon. It is essentially a quantum supercomputer that could not only transmit data from Earth to Trisolaris in real time, but could also affect Earth in physical ways. The Trisolarans mainly use the Sophons to limit human scientific development, rendering physics useless. They don't want humanity developing to a competitive level in the 400 years that it would take them to reach Earth. They also use the Sophons to communicate with Trisolaran allies on Earth, the members of ETO, the Earth Trisolaris Organization, or as I like to call them, the Traders of Humanity. Now this is where it gets interesting. The Sophons also have limitations, the main one being that though they can see everything that is happening on Earth, they cannot read human thoughts, and humanity eventually figures this out. This is where the Wallfacers come in. The Wallfacer project was enacted in year 3 of the Crisis era. The idea behind the Wallfacer project was as follows. 4 humans would be chosen by the United Nations Planetary Defense Council. Each of the 4 Wallfacers would be given near unlimited power, have access to unlimited funds, have the ability to act without question and make requests that would be followed no matter how absurd, while facing minimal scrutiny. Their main limitation was that they could never share their plans with others, for then the Trisolarans would know. The Wallfacer project was established and 4 men were ultimately chosen. Frederick Tyler, a former United States Secretary of Defense; Bill Hines, a British neuroscientist; Manuel Rey Diaz, who had once been the president of Venezuela; and of course, Luo Ji, just an ordinary astronomer, by far the least qualified of the 4. The Wallfacers would be expected to misdirect the Trisolarans, obscuring their true aims. They would use cryonic technology in order to hibernate for long periods of time over the course of the journey of the Trisolarans' fleet to Earth. Each of the Wallfacers developed a unique plan, and in the end, all but one failed. At the time all of this was being worked out, of course, the Trisolarans were watching and developing a counter to the Wallfacer project, or at least ETO was, the Wallbreaker project. They would choose from the ranks of ETO a wall breaker to counter each Wallfacer, deciphering their plans and exposing them to Trisolaris. The exact identities of the wall breakers remain at first unknown, but are revealed at later times in the series. The Trisolarans were intelligent and advanced, but due to the nature in which they had evolved to communicate, they lacked the ability to lie. They did not understand deception. This is why ETO and the wall breakers were necessary. We will appoint a wall breaker for each Wallfacer. Like the Wallfacers, the wall breakers will be authorized to tap all of the organizations for resources, but their greatest resource will be the Sophons, which will render the Wallfacers' every action utterly exposed. The only secret will be their thoughts. The Wallbreakers' mission, then, is to analyze the Wallfacers' open and clandestine actions with the help of the Sophons and decipher the true nature of their strategic aims as early as possible. The leadership will now appoint the Wallbreakers. 4 Wallbreakers were appointed, 1 for each Wallfacer. As I said, each Wallfacer was required to develop a unique plan. We'll start with Frederick Tyler. Part 2. Frederick Tyler's Plan. As I said, Frederick Tyler was a former U.S. Secretary of Defense. He also authored a book titled The Truth of Technology. Apparently in this book he argued that small countries could reap significant benefits from technology, and were in fact the ultimate beneficiaries of technology, suggesting that technological pursuits of larger nations would in the end shift the global power balance in favor of smaller ones. Publicly, Tyler proposed a plan to create a swarm of kamikaze fighter crafts to confront the Trisolaran fleet. However, privately, his true intentions, which would ultimately be unveiled by his Wallbreaker, would prove to be traitorous. Initially, Tyler may have worked to help humanity, but as time went on, he developed a resentment for humanity, which only continued to grow. Simultaneously, his appreciation for the Trisolarans and the members of ETO also grew. He traveled the world, becoming disillusioned with modern humanity. He was convinced that humanity did not stand a chance at defeating Trisolaris in standard combat. Of course, this was only the beginning. Your betrayal of humanity would be a long process, but you had time on your side. In the following months and years, you were prepared to engineer events that would add to the wall you erected between yourself and the human race. Your despair would gradually grow and your sorrow intensify, and you would leave the human world further and further behind, growing closer and closer to ETO and Trisolaris. Tyler had actually planned to use the swarm of kamikaze fighters to attack humanity's own fleet. He had intended to enlist members of ETO to pilot the crafts. He had also planned to transport water to the approaching Trisolaran fleet, recognizing their potential need for it after their long space journey. The ETO Mosquito fleet would launch a sneak attack on the Space Force and then flee to the Trisolarans, who might be willing to let them join their fleet once they had demonstrated their disloyalty to humanity. Tyler is eventually confronted by his Wallbreaker, who has discovered Tyler's plan and would expose him. In a frail voice, the pitiful man uttered his first sentence. It struck Tyler like a bolt of lightning, and so dazed him that he practically sat down on the ground. Every word was like a thunderclap. Wallfacer Frederick Tyler, I am your Wallbreaker. Okay, so now a warning. This is where it gets pretty dark. Confronted with the futility of his plan, and unable to resign from his Wallfacer role, Frederick Tyler chooses to take his own life after disclosing his scheme to Luo Ji. And there you have it. History would mark this as the first major failure in the already questionable Wallfacer project. Part 3. Bill Hines' Plan. In the Dark Forest, Wallfacer Bill Hines, a British neuroscientist, experiments with a piece of tech known as a resolving imager and makes a discovery. He finds that if a subject undergoes an enhanced radiation scan immediately after affirming a false statement, they will subsequently regard that statement as true, essentially forming a mental seal. I won't talk about the details. Basically, we discovered the mind's mechanism for making judgments in the cerebral neural network, as well as the ability to have a decisive impact on them. If we compare the process by which a human mind makes judgments to a computer's process, there's the input of external data, calculation, and then the final outcome. What we're able to do is omit the calculation step of the process and directly produce an outcome. When a certain piece of information enters the brain, it exerts an influence on a particular part of the neural network, and we can cause the brain to render a judgment, to believe that the information is genuine without even thinking about it. Has this already been achieved? Zheng Weishe asked softly. Yes. It started with the chance discovery, which we subjected to in-depth research, and now we've done it. We call it the mental seal. To confirm this, Bill subjects himself to the process with the statement, "Water is toxic," and as a result, he begins to genuinely believe that water is in fact toxic. Consequently, he undergoes a 2-month psychotherapy program to regain the ability to drink water without hesitation. If a person is given a judgment that is at odds with reality, it would be eventually overturned. But the process was painful because the judgment produced in the mind by the mental seal was extremely stubborn. But this was only with very clearly false proclamations. Other judges would be essentially impossible to overturn, like the existence of God, or whether or not humanity might win a particular war against a particular race of aliens. These don't have a clearly determined answer, and in the normal course of establishing these beliefs, the mind is slightly tilted in a certain direction by all sorts of choices. If the belief is established by the mental seal, it will be rock solid and absolutely unshakable. To understand how the mental seal relates to Heinz's plan, you have to understand the concept of the triumphalist versus the defeatist. They are essentially opposite schools of thought on how humans should deal with the Trisolaran crisis. The triumphalist believed that humanity could defeat the Trisolarans through strength and determinism, while defeatists believed that we could not win against the Trisolarans, and ultimately trended towards the idea of escapism. Essentially, they thought humanity should be preparing to run away from our solar system and let the Trisolarans have Earth. Escapism had of course been banned early on by the governments of the world, as it had been universally decided that humanity would not flee, but instead would face the crisis head-on. On the surface, Heinz's plan was to use the mental seal on people in order to make them triumphalist. This would instill the belief in humanity's survival and theoretically give us a higher chance of success in the war against Trisolaris. This obviously brings up all sorts of moral dilemmas surrounding free will once Heinz unveils it. By this point in time, many have denounced the Wallfacer project and some called for its dissolution. Many viewed Heinz's mental seal as a herald of the end of humanity's individuality and free will. Many believed that the mental seal was the equivalent of thought control. "Look at you, Wallfacers," the Russian representative said, raising his hands towards the ceiling. "Tyler wanted to deprive the people of their lives, and you want to deprive them of their minds. What are you trying to do?" It was decided that no one would be forced to use the mental seal. It would be completely voluntary. It was proposed that the mental seal be opened like a public facility. It would have only one proposition: the belief in human victory in the Trisolaran War. Anyone willing to gain true faith through use of the mental seal could use the facility, and all of this would be conducted under the strictest supervision, and the person would be given multiple chances to change their minds before making the final decision. But there is a twist here. It turns out that Heinz himself was a defeatist. Heinz had actually secretly switched the code of the mental seal device. Rather than make people triumphalist, they gained a belief in absolute defeatism. The mental seal was an incredibly complicated piece of equipment, so although everything was strictly supervised, even the technical details of the mental seal, there were still gaps in that supervision. When the neural circuit model for judging a proposition to be true was discovered, Heinz also discovered the model for judging a proposition to be false. That was what he needed. He concealed this discovery from everyone, including me. It wasn't difficult because the two models were highly similar. It manifested as the direction of flow of a key signal in the neuron transmission model. And in the mathematical model of the mental seal, it was represented by a sign, positive for true, negative for false. Working in extreme secrecy, Heinz manipulated the sign in the mental seal's control software. In all 5 devices, the sign was negative. Heinz had done this because he believed that escapism was the only practical means for survival for humanity. But by the time this all comes to light, Heinz is faced with a paradox. Before the doomsday battle would claim countless human souls and end in the destruction of humanity's entire space force, victory for humanity had almost seemed certain in the eyes of many. Heinz was still under the influence of his mental seal at this point, and because of this, he nearly suffered a mental breakdown as a result of the conflict of the mental seal's judgment and reality. He can see all that humanity has done and how far they've come, and he understands that victory in the war should belong to humanity. and yet, due to the mental seal, he cannot believe it. Yes, dear, if you permit me to call you that. Only by doing that could I obtain the spiritual strength necessary to execute the plan. Yes, right now I believe all I have done is correct. I absolutely believe it, regardless of what reality says. I use the mental seal to turn myself into my own God, and God can't repent. He remarks after the Doomsday Battle that he might have been the only person who actually benefited from the destruction of humanity's Space Force. The eventual revelation of the truth of what Heinz's mental seal did led to anxiety amongst the citizens of Earth. By this time, it had been nearly 2 centuries since the mental seal was first used. Still, because of the availability of cryonic technology, anyone, perhaps even those within the government or military, could be secret defeatist, intent on sabotaging humanity's chance of victory in favor of escapism. It's just speculation that the imprinted have endured. It's been over 170 years after all. If a class or organization would such an absolute faith in defeatism exist, why haven't there been any signs of it? There are 2 possibilities, the representative of the European fleet said. One is that the mental seal vanished long ago, and this is just a false alarm. The representative of the Asian fleet completed his thought. But there's another possibility. The most frightening thing about the situation is the fact that there aren't any signs. The second possibility was terrifying because it would suggest that those imprinted with the mental seal in fact survived but remain hidden amongst them. A person who developed a defeatist mentality naturally would speak to others of their thoughts, but a person with a 100% unshakable belief in defeatism, created by the mental seal, would inevitably develop a corresponding sense of mission, a religious-like fanaticism based on the first belief that humanity will lose the Trisolarian War. Defeatism and escapism are intimately related. And if the imprinted really exist, then their ultimate mission is bound to be accomplishing an escape into the universe. But to achieve this goal, they have to deeply conceal their true thoughts. In the end, Heinz is proven correct. Escapism would indeed be the only hope for humanity, as the listener in the dark would eventually notice our solar system and casually fling a solar system destroying weapon in our direction. We've covered these events already in this video. Part 4. Manuel Ray Diaz's Plan. Wallfacer Manuel Ray Diaz, the former president of Venezuela, emerges as a central figure in the series with a profound and alarming agenda. As one of the 4 Wallfacers, he embarks on a mission that seeks to secure humanity's survival in the face of an impending threat from the Trisolarian fleet. But his philosophy leans more in the direction of, if we can't keep our solar system, you can't have it either. His strategy, though initially focusing on the development of more powerful hydrogen bombs, evolves into a chilling scheme that could potentially spell doom for the entire solar system. Diaz's initial objective, as I said, centers around the creation of enhanced hydrogen bombs, with the goal of countering the imminent threat posed by the Trisolarian fleet. To facilitate this endeavor, he retreats into a state of hibernation, dedicating himself to intensive research and development. However, as the narrative unfolds, it becomes evident that his ambitions have taken an ominous turn. In the Crisis Year 20, Diaz awakens to a dramatically altered landscape. Humanity has succeeded in crafting a stellar hydrogen bomb, rendering his initial quest obsolete. Instead of conceding defeat, Diaz devises a new plan: to construct a vast cavern on the planet Mercury where he intends to detonate the stellar hydrogen bombs. This cavern, aside from serving as the launching site for these powerful weapons, also holds the purpose of providing Earth with a last line of defense should the Trisolarian fleet achieve victory. The turning point in this narrative occurs when Diaz's Wallbreaker confronts him following the catastrophic Mercury detonation event. It is then revealed that his plans are nothing short of diabolical. Diaz sought to drain the oceans of vital resources in order to create the ultimate bomb. Evidently, Wallfacer Ray Diaz doesn't just want to make a small sun, he wants to make a small galaxy. The US representative said loudly, then he leaned towards Ray Diaz. Do you really think that the ocean's protium, deuterium, and tritium were prepared just for you? Because of your perverted affection for the bomb, the Earth should be turned into a bomb workshop? Diaz's true intention is to trigger the simultaneous explosion of 1,000 stellar hydrogen bombs on Mercury, causing the planet to degrade in its orbit and plunge into the sun. The catastrophic fallout of this chain reaction would result in the sun exploding, unleashing devastating solar flares that would ultimately draw the inner planets of the solar system, including the colossal Jupiter. The catastrophic outcome of this plan was nothing short of an apocalyptic scenario, one that would obliterate all habitable planets within the solar system and extinguish all life on Earth in the process. Essentially, this was Ray Diaz's twisted, insane idea of mutually assured destruction, but in a more direct and crude sense than Luo Ji's plan, which we will talk about next. The gravity of Diaz's actions do not escape the UN planetary defense, which reacts with horror to the magnitude of the threat that he poses to humanity itself. They consider charging him with the extinction of life on Earth law, recognizing the gravity of his intentions. In a last-ditch effort to preserve his own safety, Diaz revealed that he has rigged a dead man's switch which would trigger the detonation of a bomb in nearby New York, unleashing further chaos and destruction. Faced with this perilous ultimatum, the council is forced to negotiate an exit plan for Diaz. As Diaz returns to his hometown in Venezuela after years of seclusion, the residents are quick to react to the horrifying revelations about his plan. Outraged by his intentions to annihilate all life, they take justice into their own hands and stone him to death on sight. Ray Diaz held up his hands with tears in his eyes and called out to the crowd in a voice dripping with emotion. "Ah, my people!" The first stone thrown by his people struck him on his outstretched left hand. The second hit him in the chest, and the third smashed into his forehead and nearly knocked him out. After that, the people's stones came like raindrops and had practically buried his lifeless body by the end. The last stone that hit Wallfacer Ray Diaz was thrown by an old woman who struggled to carry it up to his corpse, then said in Spanish, "Evildoer, you would kill everyone. My grandson would have been there. You'd have killed my grandson." Then, using all the strength in her trembling hands, she slammed her stone against Ray Diaz's broken skull, where it lay exposed beneath the pile of rocks. This conclusion highlights the depths of fear and betrayal that Ray Diaz's actions had sown. Diaz was mad, but he was trying to help humanity in his own way, and yet he is viewed by the world, including his own people, as a traitor to humanity. This is because the Wallfacers were given immense power, but not absolute, unlimited power. They had no right to place humanity in imminent danger. For this, Ray Diaz, like Frederick Tyler, was judged by history as one of humanity's biggest traitors, though humanity's savior, Luo Ji, would use the hydrogen bomb technology Diaz helped to develop in his plan. Part 5. Luo Ji's Plan. Now, I've covered Luo Ji's plan before on this channel in this video, Why is Space Malicious? But we will go over it again here for clarity's sake. Luo Ji was chosen to be a Wallfacer seemingly at random. It is eventually revealed that the reason he was actually chosen was not due to his skills or profession, but for one reason alone. It was understood that the Trisolarans wanted him dead. The reason for this related back to a chance encounter he had had with one woman, Ye Wenji, the woman who was not only instrumental in the creation of ETO, but was also the individual who initially alerted the aliens to our presence and the location of the Earth. Ye Wenji had been the original traitor of humanity. Ye Wenji introduced Luo Ji to a concept known as cosmic sociology. Cosmic sociology was based on two tenets. 1. There are a limited number of resources in the universe. 2. The goal of civilization is to expand. These tenets seem simple, but once you extrapolate from the tenets, a terrifying picture emerges. If the goal of civilization is to expand, and there are limited resources in the universe, this suggests that expanding civilizations would be forced to compete with each other for those resources. This is where the concept of the Dark Forest comes from. It is mentioned that Trisolarans considered the dark forest state of the cosmos as the greatest secret in the human universe. And because of what Ye Wenji had said to him by chance years earlier, Luo Ji figured it out. The first test of Luo Ji's theory would take 50 years to complete. He would use cryonic technology during this time. He called it a spell. Using the sun's radio wave magnification capabilities, they would transmit the message into space, including 3 simple images and some extra data to show they were sent by an intelligent source. All 3 images depicted planets in the star system 187J3X1. The star system 187J3X1 was approximately 50 light years away, so obviously it would take at least that amount of time to see if his spell had any effect. Luo Ji instructed them to wake him up from hibernation only when the spell's impact was detected. However, his wishes were not honored, and he actually remained in hibernation for approximately 200 years. By this time, the Wallfacer project had faded into obscurity. Many in the current era viewed the decision to create the Wallfacer project as a significant error by the leaders of the past. By this era, Luo Ji was regarded as an ordinary citizen. It wasn't until after the Doomsday Battle, which decimated Earth's Space Force, that the Wallfacer project was reinstated, and Luo Ji's status was restored. The reason for this revival was straightforward. His spell had succeeded. They just didn't notice it until much later. Luo Ji's spell had exposed the location of the star 187J3X1 to the wider universe, indicating that it harbored life, despite Luo Ji's knowledge to the contrary, of course, because Luo Ji is not a genocidal maniac. The outcome was the same. The star had remained stable and had not naturally gone supernova. Then, just before its destruction, a tiny object called a photoid, traveling at near the speed of light, was observed hurtling towards the star. The resulting explosion obliterated all 4 planets in the star system. Luo Ji then fully comprehended why he had been chosen as a Wallfacer. The Trisolarans sought his demise because they knew he was close to uncovering the secret they desperately wanted to hide from humanity. The universe was actively hostile, and any intelligent life that revealed itself was ultimately eradicated by a technologically superior civilization. The universe was a dark forest. At this point, Earth's location had only been disclosed to the Trisolarans. The aliens knew that if humanity discovered the universe's secret, they might reveal the location of Trisolaris, dooming both civilizations. Luo Ji's plan from there on was straightforward. Hold the Trisolarans in a state of ultimate deterrence by threatening mutually assured destruction, repurposing Manuel Rey Diaz's hydrogen bomb tech. The success of Dark Forest deterrence was founded on the unpredictability of Luo Ji as an individual. If deterrence failed, his actions would be guided by his own personality and psychology. Even if he acted rationally, his own interests might not match humanity's interest perfectly. At the beginning of the deterrence era, both Trisolaris and Earth carefully analyzed Luo Ji's personality and built up detailed mathematical models. Both the Trisolarans and humanity judged Luo Ji's percentage of carrying out the threat should the need arise to be between 92 and 98%. As I've said, I go into more detail on how exactly Luo Ji accomplished this in my Deterrence era video, so check that out if you want all the details on that. Conclusion. One Wallfacer betrays humanity in favor of the Trisolarans. Another attempts to alter the minds of people to believe his ideology. Another puts the entire solar system in jeopardy in a crazed scheme, and the last succeeds at deterring the Trisolarans. In conclusion, the Wallfacers in Lucian's trilogy symbolize a profound exploration of multifaceted themes, each as crucial as the last. They present a stark departure from humanity's collective efforts in countering the Trisolaran threat, forcing us to ponder the role of individuals in shaping history and the potential for individual agency when confronted with global changes. However, their actions also pose ethical and moral dilemmas, as they sometimes resort to morally ambiguous or controversial strategies in Earth's defense, prompting the reader to consider the repercussions of making ethically challenging decisions under the looming specter of annihilation. The Wallfacers' extraordinary power and autonomy kind of invite us to scrutinize the very nature of power itself, its consolidation in the hands of a select few, and the perils of unchecked authority. This concept also serves as a lens through which we can examine the intricacies of global politics, diplomacy, and international collaboration, which is a major theme of this series, in times of impending doom. It also calls to our attention how governments and also individuals react to existential threats, and how this underscores the roles of political leaders and institutions shaping our future. At many times in human history, the course of all of history, the fate of all mankind rests within the hands of just a few people. That is the point behind the Wallfacer project. That is the idea that Lushishin is attempting to explore. Ultimately, the Wallfacer concept adds depth and complexity to the narrative and helps to explore even more the ideas revolving around communication, power, and ethics, and the human response to an alien menace. Thanks guys so much for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe for more Quinn's ideas. For more videos on this particular book series, check out the 3-Body Problem playlist in the description. Thanks guys. As I said, you can check out our Patreon if you would like to support this channel or use the PayPal link in the description. Thanks guys.